afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining and welcome to our webinar on safer medical devices and more precisely on the implementation of the EU medical device regulation on the EUDAMED database. My name is Katia Pacella. I'm the Circular Healthcare Projects Officer here at Healthcare Without Harm Europe, and I will be moderating this session today. Just a quick reminder, the session will be recorded and will be available afterwards on our website. And also please leave your questions in the Q&A button and we will take them in the end of the session. So before we get properly started, just let me say something about our organization. And above all, for those that don't know Healthcare Without Harm. So we are Healthcare Without Harm Europe, a non-profit European network of hospitals, healthcare systems, professional bodies, and health organizations. And Healthcare Without Harm includes 3 regional offices that develop the regional work and initiatives in Europe, Southeast Asia, and the United States. And also we have regional partners around the world. In a nutshell, our mission is to create a sustainable healthcare sector that does no harm, but acts as a catalyst to protect human health and the environment. And to do so, we have identified the 4 areas for priorities, and we focus on these closely connected programs and scaling new ideas and pushing for ambitious policy action. So we have a program working on the climate smart healthcare, one on the circular healthcare, safer pharma, and sustainable food. So the healthcare sector has a unique and urgent role to play, not only because of its size and environmental impact, but also because of its role and position in the society. So they are perfectly placed to both inspire and demand the change. Just a few words about our members, because together with our European members, we are also part of a global movement, the Global Green Healthy Hospitals. That is an international network, and so they can connect via this platform. It is essentially a network of hospitals, healthcare facilities, health systems, and health organizations. So as I said, I'm from the Circular Healthcare team. And today this webinar is organized under this program, where our mission is to apply the circular model to the healthcare sector by extending the life cycle of healthcare products, respecting also the waste hierarchy, and transforming the sector towards a toxic-free healthcare. So where medical device and healthcare products are safer and do not contain harmful chemicals. In this context, we have followed the development of the new medical device regulation, especially on the fact that introduced provisions to help to phase out harmful chemicals like the carcinogenic, mutagenic, and reprotoxic chemicals, and endocrine disruptors. That's in all medical device, also when safer alternatives are available and technically feasible. Also, we have followed the development of the EUDAMED database. We will see a bit later in detail that it's a database that will be available to enhance transparency and to gather all the data on the medical device that will available in the market. Just a few resources before starting. Just if you want to have a look on the harmful chemicals, not only in the medical devices, but in all healthcare products, we have developed this phase-out list last year. It's actually already 1 year, just to have a common agree on the harmful chemicals in the healthcare sector, and also to help the procurement phase to phase out these harmful chemicals. So it's been a while since our last update on the medical device regulation, and I have left also here a few resources just from the past webinars and past reports. But today we really would like to take this opportunity to discuss the status of the medical device regulation implementation, to review EUDAMED's state of play, and also hear about the challenges and opportunities from the industry and the notified bodies. So welcome to our speakers. So we will start with the perspective from the industry. with Oliver Bisazza, that is the Director, Regulations and Industrial Policy at MedTech Europe, which is the main European industry association for the medical technologies. And he will be providing an overview on the new medical device regulation with a focus also on chemicals and the new database, the EUDAMED. And after Oliver, we will hear from Françoise Schlemmer, that is the Director of the Team Notified Bodies since 2001. So it's the notified bodies, the Team Notified Bodies is the European Association of Medical Device of Notified Bodies that we know they are the key actors in implementing the regulations. And these are entities that verify the actual compliance with the requirements. So we will then learn from Françoise the role of the notified bodies, their activities, and also, I mean, where we are now with the medical device regulation. So I think that's it. So Oliver, the Zoom floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Katia. Thank you so much for the invitation to be back. I will try to share my screen. Please tell me if it's coming through. Okay.
Yes, yes. Thanks, Oliver.
Okay, super. So hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm pleased to give you an update on where we are in implementing the MDR, the Medical Devices Regulation. We should not call it new anymore because it has been with us for more than 5 years, but let's say the work is not finished yet. The regulatory infrastructure for this regulation continues to be built gradually. So I will, on the one hand, give a general update on some bits and pieces which I know are relevant for Healthcare Without Harm members. And as Katia said, I'll try and give a picture on where we are with EUDAMED, the European database for medical devices. Just for those who have not attended past webinars, MedTech Europe is representing the medical technology industry in Europe, including medical devices, in vitro diagnostics, and digital health. We have members across Europe from the side of multinational corporations and other manufacturers, and also national associations across the EU member states and beyond. And when we talk about medical technology, even if it's just the medical devices, we are talking about an incredibly diverse range of technologies. They are limited only by the limits of human ingenuity and materials. They range from very simple to very sophisticated, from very low risk to high risk. They can use nearly any material. The one thing I say is that they are not medicines. Okay, so long as they are not acting like a medicine, they can be almost certainly a medical device. They are just used to manage, prevent, treat, cure, diagnose, monitor healthcare conditions, all with the idea of saving life and improving life. So it's actually a very diverse range of technologies. We estimate there are more than 500,000 of them out there. So quite a complex area to regulate and also quite complex from the point of view of materials and chemicals. The MDR, as we know, is a new regulation from 2017. It was put in place to repeal and replace and modernize former European directives from the 1990s. So we used to have 2 European directives from the 1990s, MDD, AIMDD. Last year, the MDR, the Medical Devices Regulation, repealed and replaced those old directives, meaning the MDR is now the reference piece of EU legislation that medical device manufacturers must comply with in order to lawfully place medical devices on the EU market. Like the former directives, they are following a similar pathway, which we call CE marking, in which you have requirements regulating the design of the product, the evidence the manufacturer needs to bring that the device works safely when used as intended, the conformity assessment, which is the assessment of our compliance with the rules. That's where notified bodies represented by Françoise in particular come in. We also have registration in databases like EUDAMED, and it ends, if I may say, with the placing of the CE marking on the device. And then in the post-market phase, when the device is on the market and in use, we have a wide variety of vigilance and post-market follow-up obligations, all of which is broadly speaking similar to the directives from the 1990s. But there are many cases in which the regulation is different from those directives. This I presented last time, I just repeated briefly. The MDR had dedicated rules designed to tighten the system, especially for high-risk devices like implants. The regulation also raised the bar in terms of the requirements for notified bodies. There was a special emphasis on the clinical evidence of safety and performance that the industry needs to bring, and et cetera, et cetera. And I mentioned the EUDAMED database down below. It's actually quite central to the proper functioning of the regulation because so much of the regulation is built around EUDAMED. Now, if we turn for a second from that very broad context into the very specific issue of chemicals, which I know is an area of high interest for healthcare without harm, it's important to say that the MDR does contain dedicated rules on chemicals in medical devices. On the far right-hand side, you see how we perceive that in relation to the other EU chemicals legislation. Other EU chemicals legislation like CLP, REACH, RoHS, etc. We call those horizontal chemical legislations. They apply to a great many industrial sectors, including our own, but they are not tailored to medical devices. And they are combining both human health considerations and environmental considerations. They are in many ways drivers for substitution of chemicals and products. MDR and its rules on chemicals are a little bit different. First of all, MDR is a human health regulation, so it is only regulating chemicals as regards their human health profile, not their environmental profile. And MDR, we do not see it especially as a direct driver for substitution. The whole point of the MDR is that for certain high-risk devices, if they are containing CMR 1A, 1B devices or endocrine disruptors above 0.1%, the MDR is really requiring that to be justified in a much more substantial way than ever before. And if it is really justified for the substance to remain in there, this must become more transparent on the device label and one day in the future EUDAMED database, okay? So we see the MDR as more about increasing the bar for justifying why a certain chemical is in a device, and on the other hand, for making that more transparent to the outside world. Quite different from the chemicals legislations on the left, which are more designed to regulate chemicals in a more horizontal fashion. When I say that MDR is requiring the presence of chemicals to be justified, the language you will often find in the regulation is benefit risk. The benefits of having a device designed a certain way must be weighed against the risks of having certain materials. So if there are chemical substances, for instance, in a medical device, which may pose particular risks to the patient or user, that's very serious. And we would only be able to justify those chemicals' presence in the device if we show that the benefits of the device go away or go down without the chemical. So classic example might be, I don't know, some kind of implant where a chemical is there to provide a certain level of performance, you know, durability, lightweight, resistance against breaking when it's inside the patient. If that chemical is truly essential to giving the product the performance that patients and doctors require, then potentially the chemical's presence is justified. If the chemical is not playing such a clear role and it can be removed, then it's very hard, maybe impossible, to justify why the chemical should remain in there. Okay, so we're balancing benefits and risks. And one new piece of information since the last webinar is that there have been now European guidelines on this, specifically in the area of phthalates, which are, as you know, are plasticizing substances. The European SHEAR committee has provided quite detailed guidelines on how manufacturers should go about determining the benefit risk profile of phthalates in medical devices, which you're all encouraged to read because I know that they are also taken quite seriously by the notified bodies as well. Let me turn now to EUDAMED. Why I shift to EUDAMED again is EUDAMED is central to the overall functioning of the medical devices regulation, and it is also one of the main vehicles by which information will be made transparent in the future about chemicals in certain medical devices. The ultimate thing to remember about EUDAMED, unfortunately, is it is an incredibly ambitious database in terms of what it will cover and its complexity. And due to that, it has more than once, in fact, been postponed. Originally, the European Commission wanted EUDAMED in place before May 2020. It has not managed to do that. The latest planning that we understand, if you look at this table in the middle, we are now being told the plan is for EUDAMED to achieve full functionality and to be audited as having achieved full functionality sometime in 2024. And they mentioned Q2 2024. If that happens, it will only after that time become mandatory for everyone to put information in EUDAMED, which means we are unfortunately looking at a situation where it could be 2026 at the earliest before EUDAMED is A, there, and B, populated with the information that needs to be in there. So I don't go into the details of that, but I can answer in Q&A. Unfortunately, this database is not proving so easy for the European Commission to put in place as quickly as it would like. The purpose of this slide is now just to tell you that there are many different modules to the database: ACTA registration, UDI and device, notified body certificates, etc., etc. The Commission is building the database module by module. And some of them, like the ACTA registration module, work on it started quite early, and it's more or less ready to go, I understand. There are others, like the module on clinical investigations and performance studies, which started later and is known to be particularly complex. And that's why you see, I think, these delays in delivering EUDAMED. EUDAMED is only considered live and ready to go when all modules are live. We were always quite open to the idea of using modules when they became available, and some countries are allowing for that. But the legal conclusion which has come back from authorities is that EUDAMED can only be mandatory and used by everyone after it is complete. And that's why we need the European Commission to complete its work on this database. Just to give you a picture, this is not the first time EUDAMED was delayed. We first got news in 2019, October 2019, that EUDAMED was going to be delayed. 2 years later, in October 2021, we got news of the second delay, and just July of this year, we got news of the third delay. So can I tell you without a doubt that that was the final delay and the database will be delivered in Q2 of 2024? Unfortunately, I cannot. Only the European Commission can truly know how likely the timeline is to be met. But the message is it's taking time, and it's proving very, very complex for this key piece of the regulation to be put into place. What we do have, however, is different bits and pieces of the database more or less completed. And if we look at the bit which I assume interests healthcare without harm, the piece of the database that deals with hazardous substances, we already have a kind of mock-up page, and we have an idea of what the database will look like on the side of the manufacturers when we have to upload information about our devices. You have a very clear checkbox and drop-down list approach, where if a device is subject to these substance requirements, and if the manufacturer has successfully justified to the notified body that the substance's presence is acceptable from a benefit-risk point of view, then this gets transparently put on the labeling, okay? If that happens, it'll also be required for the manufacturer to communicate in EUDAMED that the device is labeled like that. In other words, it will not be necessary for interested members of the public to get their hands on the labeling. They will one day be able to search in EUDAMED to see which devices have gone through this requirement. And it seems there will be information about the category of CMR or endocrine disruptor, maybe information about the substance identity, and the language of the labeling. Okay, so while the go live of EUDAMED is potentially not tomorrow, we already have this particular piece of the database somewhat stable. So that much is good news, I guess. We also have some information about, on the other end, on the side of the public, interested members of the public who want to look up information in EUDAMED about medical devices. This is what the current search page looks like. And you've got the public link already to EUDAMED, which you can go into. There's just not much information in there because the database is not complete yet. If you are an interested member of the public and you want to look up information about medical devices in the future, you will be able to search for it either by having the search terms UDI, DI, or basic UDI, DI, or you'll also be able to look by manufacturer name, catalog number, model name, etc. So we actually have, funnily enough, quite a lot there. It's just that the actual full deployment of the database is not something that has been achieved yet. So I could tell you a lot more, but I hope that suffices as a setting for the scene. MDR implementation continues to move along, but it's clear that after 5.5 years, there's still quite a lot that the European Commission and member states need to do. The EUDAMED database and completing the functionality of that is one key example of which I've tried to give you the latest intel that we understand of where that database is. And I hope this is good food for thought for the discussion session that we will have after the two presentations. So thank you very much. I will stop sharing my screen.
Thanks a lot, Olivier. Thanks a lot. That was brilliant. Thanks also for the good and the bad news. That was really a good overview. And I think we can come back in detail later with a bit detailed questions. Yeah, especially on EUDAMED. Thanks a lot. Françoise, I can give you the floor to you when you're ready. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Katja. And I'm going to share my screen. Oh, interesting. It became like the last one. Yes, first one is better. Yeah. Thank you, Katja, and thank you to have joined so many persons. That it seems that the topic is of interest to you. I'm going to give you the perspective of the notified body, and I am focused only on EUDAMED. Yes, next. Just for you to know, TeamNB is an association of notified body, which has been established in 2001 with the aim to represent the notified body, with having interaction with all the stakeholders, and of course promote technical and ethical aspect, and also, which is quite important for these last months, working and participating in improving the legal framework. That is the evolution of the members since the foundation of the association in 2012. As you know, probably there were something like 80 notified body in that were designated, which is of course now less more. There is only 51, I don't know, following the directive, and 33 only following the new regulation. And up to now in 2022, we have 31 members who are part of the association. And they are representing 18 different countries. The association edited a code of conduct that has to be signed by all the organization willing to become a member. This code of conduct has been aligned with the new requirement of the new regulation, and if you are interested, it is available on our website. What about this new regulation and what about the work of the association? In fact, when it was spoken of this new regulation in 2016 already, Team NB established working groups in the aim to help members to be designated and to allow more and more harmonization among the members. As you can see, we reasonably succeeded in this aim, as you can see then that on the 33 designated notified body, 23 are members of the association. What have we still done to improve the implementation more recently? We have established mirror working group. You know probably that MDCG, with the overarching group from the Commission and Member State, which is giving information and technical guidances to the Commission, is subdivided in 13 subgroups. 11 of them allow observers, and we have decided to establish groups which are working on these on the topics that are working on in those groups. The objective is, of course, to harmonize our view, define the position, and propose comments on the proposed guidances, MDCG guidances. Perhaps we have already heard about that. We have also established task forces. We have something like 20 task forces which are aimed to address topics which are not directly discussed in the MDCG working groups. The group, one of the aim of those two set of groups is to write position papers to let know the other stakeholders the position of and the harmonized position of the members of Team NB, and this is available on the Team NB website. Still in this aim to harmonization, we have set up a number of trainings. The objective of these trainings is, of course, to train auditors in the different members, and through that to achieve harmonization among the way they are doing their assessments, and allow exchanges between auditors in order to have a better understanding of the new requirements of this new regulation. You see a list of topics on which we are already promoting some trainings, and there are still others. And we have even more recently set up expert harmonization sessions, meaning that we are making the senior experts of the members having a quarterly meeting in order to exchange their view on some difficult / hot topics. And the idea is coming also to a common view and allow these experts of the members to cascade the information towards all the auditors of the organization. We are doing a survey on an annual basis, and I am going, if you allow me, to show you a few slides over what is going on with the way that we are going to try to implement the new regulation in the requested timeline. First of all, capacities. As you can see, notified body workforce has been highly increased this last year in order to being able to fulfill the requirements of the request of the market and mostly of our clients, the manufacturer. Second thing, unfortunately, we have to see that the transition from the directive to the regulation is still regularly slow, and we hope that it could be quickly done, and we have still some room to take on board new application. It has to be said that, of course, there are some codes, meaning territories, such as, for example, orthopedic implant or software, where there are more challenges and it's more difficult to find time to take new manufacturer on board, but reasonably we have possibilities. Another important information is the expiration of directive, of the certificate against directive. The thing is, because of COVID, we have been asked to renew the certificate with a later expiration date. The idea was to allow manufacturers to continue to put on the market their products, which was a necessity at that time. But by that way, we have settled a definitely big challenge, which is still to be solved, which is in 2024, we definitely have a big increase of the number of certificate expiration against the directive, knowing that this number of certificate is definitely above the estimated capacity to issue certificates per year from the members. And that is something we definitely need to be aware of, because we need to solve this situation before 2024. Then allow me to speak a bit more about your today's topic, which is EUDAMED. It will be the meaning is to use a nomenclature which has been settled by the Commission. That will be free of charge to allow all persons to attend it, and the idea is to collect information regarding medical device and to make some of them, of course, being publicly available, and others to be available to the stakeholders, such as the department in charge of the vigilance and market surveillance in the member states, to fulfill their duty to follow the market and be sure that safe medical devices are on the market. You can see here what shall be included in the EUDAMED on the registration of device, and of course Oliver already told us of UDI. It's a way to identify in a unique way each device. And we will be able also through EUDAMED to identify the manufacturer and all the economic operators, notified body, each certificate, and all the information regarding clinical investigation and the vigilance, as I already told you. All the stakeholders will need to enter the data. Of course, EUDAMED is established by the Commission in order that we will be able to use it in a friendly and convenient way, which is a huge, it will be a huge tool, and of course that probably explain some of the today difficulties. That is what we need, and differently we are going to the timeline. But before going to the timeline, I just wanted to know that you have information on the guidances that are edited by the medical device coordination group. I told you about the overarching group that are supervising all this information, and you have available a list of guidances. The latest one edited in July, to take in consideration the fact that EUDAMED is not fully functional, and to know what shall be done in the in between. And in this, among others, today notified body have additional work because of the fact that it's not operational yet. We have been asked to request manufacturer to register them as economic operator into EUDAMED. We are asked to fulfill EUDAMED as much as we can, but unfortunately we need in the same time still to fulfill the national database, and we would like to have the possibility to only fulfill one of those, of course, because there's a lot of things to be done, and additional or duplicated work is not really a very interesting way to do things. And following as an example, we need for today to introduce on a Commission platform, which is called Circa BC, to introduce documents which we will need to reintroduce in EUDAMED afterwards. You and Oliver presented to you the initial timeline, and we have now information about what was planned still a few months ago, and then we have now hopefully things EUDAMED could become live the second quarter of 2024 and became mandatory end of 2024. We can see that because, as Oliver, I have no crystal ball. I have asked the member to buy me one, but they thought it's too expensive. Then I cannot do anything about that. But let's hope. I know everybody knows that it's huge. It's a very difficult platform to establish, but it will be a very helpful tool as soon as we will be able to access it, and it will have become friendly to be used. Then, just for your information, Team NB as a committee with representatives of 5 of the 31 organizations, and we have also a website where you can find the different information I told you you could find there. And this is the list of the member of the association. Thank you very much to have listened so peacefully to me.
Great, thanks, Françoise, thanks a lot. I'm just taking the last question because someone asked if you can show again in the slide 17. Probably it was a lot of information, so maybe we can show it now before opening the other
17, question. You mean that one?
There is a slide in number 17, yeah, that someone wants to see again.
That was, yes. It is a timeline where you have both requirement for EUDAMED or steps for EUDAMED and UDI.
But maybe we can show it again while we are having, if you want, we can share again the screen. Maybe it was too much written. I don't remember. So.
Oh, sorry. I'm looking
I think that's what they mean. No worries.
On my own, which is not very useful.
No trouble.
I was too quick. That is the slide you wish.
Yeah.
You see it?
Yeah, we see it now. Yeah, indeed, it's also the timeline that was showing Olivier. I mean, with the different information. Okay.
Different way of saying
the perspective. Yeah, that's true. Okay, they say thanks, so maybe they had time to do the screenshot. Perfect. Okay, so I think
can I stop sharing?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Françoise.
Done.
I can maybe just share, then I can open the session for the questions. So I see one question on EUDAMED. So shall EUDAMED also foresee information about possible refurbishment cleaning conditions? So I think this is the item on reprocessing. I don't know if you want to answer, Olivier or Françoise. I don't think it contains this kind of information. I think it's more on other pages where we have all the list of the member state that opted for the reprocessing.
Françoise, would you like to go first, or would you like me to?
Yeah, go first.
Thank you for the question. I would indeed also like to know which specific aspect is asked about here, because the word refurbishment you will only find in the MDR in a very specific context. It's that if someone fully refurbishes a device, which means restore it as new, then they become the manufacturer. That's the only thing the MDR is really saying. Now, if instead we are talking about the general repairing, maintenance, etc., of devices like equipment within a hospital, that is something that the manufacturer will typically foresee and communicate in the user manual, the instructions for use. May or may not end up on EUDAMED, to my knowledge, because there's not the explicit requirement to put those manuals in EUDAMED, but they may be made available in other ways, like on the manufacturer's website. If we are talking about reprocessing, that's another story altogether. So just to understand exactly what kind of refurbishment your member has in mind, we can answer it a bit more targeted manner.
Yeah, let's see if they come back on the questions, Olivier, but for the now, I think it's good. I don't know if Françoise wants to add something else.
No, just to confirm what you said, it's really depending on okay, the way it's done and information that should be required in EUDAMED, but I don't think it will go so far.
Okay. Thanks. There is another question yeah, oh my, so many questions are coming now. So there is another question on EUDAMED. So only manufacturers will submit data into EUDAMED, or distributors will have access to check on their manufacturers. Our incident and the quality related details will be open to the public. Yeah, so.
Okay, no, so definitely more than just the manufacturers will submit data to EUDAMED. EUDAMED will be used by manufacturers, importers, authorized representatives, notified bodies, competent authorities, not distributors, interestingly enough, but many different players. There is indeed some provisions where I think importers and authorized representatives will need to check information that we have entered into EUDAMED as manufacturers. These are specific cases. And we have to also sometimes check what they have registered. So there's a kind of quality control. Now, which aspects are going to be made available to the public? That is something that indeed we're interested. It's clear that several things in EUDAMED will be made available to the public, but not everything. You know, for instance, things that would disclose personal data or confidential business information might not be made public. So if I see a member has asked specifically about incidents, which is how we call adverse events. Yes, there will be some information about, shall we say, the post-market vigilance experience of a device. Maybe not everything, but a certain degree. And the best person to explain exactly what is foreseen to be public would be the European Commission, because I don't have the exact details in my mind, but that should at least be partially transparent to the public.
Yes, yeah. Vigilance, it's still one of the module which has to be finalized, and we don't know exactly what will be in it. For the time being, we have information of registration of manufacturer and no, more largely registration of all economic operators. We have a certification and the link from the products also, which has to be registered, and the certificates shall be done.
Okay, great. Indeed, I was also wondering if indeed, I mean, okay, we don't know the level indeed of information that will be public also for healthcare professionals, but do you think that indeed EUDAMED could be used also as a substitution tool to more look for alternatives on safer medical devices, and to use it, for example, during the phase of procurement once EUDAMED will be available? What's your take on this, Oliver or Françoise?
Yeah, I have to say I'm not sure. You know, the purpose of EUDAMED is not to disclose the material composition of medical devices. That information, if it exists, will usually be in the technical documentation that the notified body will assess, but that's intentionally not a public document because it is containing, you know, trade secrets and know-how that if it is spreading, it can be used by criminals or other organizations to create copycat devices. EUDAMED will definitely indicate for some devices if they are containing restricted substances and where this has been justified, which those devices those are, what the substance is, etc. But it will not disclose, you know, the full composition of the device. Equally, if there is an alternative device which has not got that substance because they substituted with something else, that should also not be in EUDAMED, to my understanding. It's more to be transparent about those cases where a manufacturer thinks it has a legitimate reason to maintain a certain chemical in the device, and that this has been successfully justified to the notified body. That's how I understand it.
Yeah, yes. Very clear, makes sense. Yeah, Françoise, yeah, please go.
Yes. The objective of EUDAMED is, of course, not to disclose information that are important for the manufacturer that has made searches and developed products.
Okay, thanks. I see other questions. I think we have time. There is one more technical for Olivier. So do we need to mention all the list of components of device in the bill of materials document, or is it okay to mention only critical components or material that have direct or indirect contact with the patient or the user? So Olivier, this is for you.
Well, indeed, as I just said in the previous question, it's not the purpose of EUDAMED to disclose the material composition of the product. The only thing I'm aware of where there would be any disclosure of that information is, again, this very specific case where one of these hazardous substances, and we're talking here about, let's see if I can remember, Annex 1, section, whatever it is, where a CMR 1A1B or an endocrine disruptor is present above 0.1%. That is when, and if it is justified, that's when you disclose that particular bit, but not a full bill of materials, no.
Yeah, as justification. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. I'm lost with all the questions. Okay, I see one question.
Translate the question of Federica Tomazzi, because unfortunately I do not understand Italian.
Okay, I'll try. So what is the level of safety and the industrial secret in the data that will be introduced in EUDAMED? So I think she means if there will be some kind of industrial secret that will probably impede the transparency in the data. And so also to use this data from other stakeholders. Does that make sense?
Good question, I have to say, because on the one hand, again, not everything in EUDAMED is meant to be made transparent. And when we have those bits which are meant to be transparent, there should still be a kind of safeguard so that personal data and confidential business information is not disclosed. Now, having said that, the way it often works in EU legislation, in my experience, is that if the manufacturer thinks a piece of information is a trade secret or should not be revealed, they probably will need to justify that. And that is when you would then have information redacted or hidden. Now, how this will work in practice, I honestly do not know yet, because we are, again, still building the EUDAMED database. The ultimate goal of the database, as I recall politically, is to have more visibility across Europe about who is manufacturing medical devices placed on the market, which devices are they, in which countries are they, is a given device currently on the market or has stopped being supplied, in what language are the labeling and instructions, are there any adverse events linked to it, were there clinical investigations done in Europe? It's more about having oversights about what's on the market and some basic information. It is not, to my knowledge, meant to contain absolutely everything about a device that the notified body will look at, for instance. That's a much more substantial regulatory file, which is indeed treated confidentially. So yeah, we are looking at a subset for sure, not everything. And indeed, I can only encourage Healthcare Without Harm and others to to seek updated information from the Commission about what is intended to be made public or not. We're all interested in the answer to that question. Yeah.
That's true. I don't know if Françoise, you want to add something specifically about the justifications that that Oliver mentioned, but I think he covered everything.
No, it's just as it was said, and as well for chemicals, in a way, there is a need of justification when you want products or information not to be disclosed.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I will take maybe this one about the capacity. So what impact, Françoise, I know already that you're thinking the capacity of notified bodies, but it was a good news that I read yesterday that Now you are 33 that you also mentioned. So congratulations that they are at 33 notified bodies. So what impact will there be on manufacturers due to the overcapacity of the notified bodies workload in 2024? Will this delay of the CE marking and the ability for manufacturers to introduce new products to the market?
It is clear that we are very happy that a new guidance is which is called 2022 14 has been set up in order to take into consideration the implementation and the potential delay for the certificate to be delivered to allow all the products, all the medical devices to stay on the market. It is fair to say that notified bodies are ringing the bell still 2018. And we are very happy that this information has been taken on board now. And we hope that thanks to the fact that it has been considered at different levels, let's say EBSCO, Council, Commission, Parliamentarian, that a solution will be found. For the time being, the solution proposed are the ones that are not implying a modification of the legal framework. I know some other stakeholders would like that perhaps some legal modification could be done as well, but what I can say that at least it is clear now for every stakeholders at all the levels that problem is existing and that we will need to find solution because for the sake of the public health, we cannot let go it's like that. And I have I'm reasonably positive on the fact that the things are now taken very seriously, and hopefully that thanks to all stakeholders, progress that will be we will be able to not have to face this 2024 challenge.
Yeah,
I don't know how Oliver is.
Yeah, I don't know if Oliver wants to add something from the industry perspective on the impacts and the concern also that they have.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, we fully agree. I mean, like the notified bodies, we have been publicly concerned about this since at least 2018. Recognition of this issue and the fact that it is a real issue has been slow, but it is there now. It's also to be seen whether this will be addressed through legislation or something else. But it's important for anyone in healthcare, especially the hospitals, to know that unless this is dealt with decisively and timely, Europe could face a risk of shortages of certain medical devices, and that would be an extremely serious thing. We've all seen in 2020, during the first wave of COVID, just how unpleasant that can be if needed technologies are not available. But recognition is there. We understand and expect that health ministers will continue to exchange directly on this topic when they come to the EBSCO Council meetings in Brussels, the next one of which is in December. So we look forward to hearing about what has been done and what further will be done to urgently address that issue. Thank you.
Great, thanks. I think this is the end of the webinar. So thank you a lot, but I'm afraid we have to take the other questions. If you have any other questions, you can contact us directly, and we will try to also to discuss this again with Oliver and Francoise. So once again, thank you so much to our speakers for participating also in this session and sharing your experience with us. That was a very detailed, clear overview. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Katja, for organizing, and thank you to all of you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.